Through the use of symbols, a changing attitude, and enjambments, the author showcases how growing up leads to disillusionment and disappointment in life. A study of reading habits. When getting my nose in a book cured most things short of school, it was worth ruining my eyes to know I could still keep cool, and deal out the old right hook to dirty dogs twice my size. Later, with inch-thick specs, evil was just my lark. Me and my cloak and fangs had ripping times in the dark. The woman I clubbed with sex, I broke them up like meringues. Don't read much now. The dude who lets the girl down before the hero arrives. The chap who's yellow and keeps the store. Seem far too familiar, get stewed. Books are a load of crap.
The author Philip Larkin was born August 9th, 1922, and he died December 2nd, 1985. When he wrote, he used a pseudonym under the name of Brunette Coleman. He studied at St. John's College in Oxford. The poem goes through a progression of time, which showcases how thoughts change over time throughout life to lead to disappointment. It begins with the speaker as a child, and then it moves into early adulthood, and finally ends with the speaker as an adult and older man.
In the first stanza of the poem, the speaker describes himself as a child in school when reading helped him escape into his own world. He chose to sacrifice his eyesight by continuously reading and reading in the dark just to find happiness from the novels that he was reading. Reading also kept him calm even though he was being bullied at school, because in his mind he got the courage to stand up to the bullies, just like the heroes that he read about in his books.
Going into the second stanza, the story progresses as it goes into the speaker's early adulthood. We are shown how he has continuously been reading throughout his adolescence as he describes himself with inch-thick glasses. When the speaker reads now, he relates more to the villain than the heroes like he did in his childhood. He is able to live out his sexual fantasies through these novels that he is reading.
In the third stanza, the speaker talks about how he no longer reads as much as he did when he was younger. He is often disappointed because all the characters in his books seem the same to him. Now, the speaker relates more to the bystander and the lame characters in the books, who are often ignored or seen as background characters, when in reality, they are the ones who keep the plot going. The caesura in the first and fifth line showcases how the poet isn't as engulfed in reading anymore, so his train of thought stops. The last line, get stewed, books are a load of crap, is an informal line that greatly contrasts to the rest of the poem that is mostly in formal language. This draws attention to the line and shows that he's fallen out of love with reading and the literary language. He now recommends getting drunk instead of reading to escape reality. He feels that that is a more effective option for him.
Throughout the poem, there are various symbols used throughout. In the first stanza, the phrase dirty dogs is a symbol for bullies in the speaker's childhood. This is also an example of name-calling, which shows that the narrator is young and immature. In the second stanza, symbols such as coat and fangs expresses the villains and the evil characters that are now in the novels of the early adult. He uses meringues as a symbol for women because meringues are a light, sweet, and delicate dessert, which shows his attitude towards women and how he views them. In the third stanza, the character who's yellow and keeps the store represents the bystander of the story. Yellow represents cowardly characteristics. Throughout the poem, there are various enjambments used in almost every line. In the first stanza, the purpose is to reinforce the ideas presented of being caught up or engulfed in the book that he is reading. He is so occupied by the book that he cannot finish the line, which therefore creates an enjambment. In the second stanza, it again shows the speaker's engulfment in the reading and the story. However, it stops halfway in the second stanza, ending the enjambment pattern, which shows that he is growing up and is no longer as occupied with his reading and therefore able to finish the sentence. The attitude throughout the poem changes with each stanza. In the first stanza, the attitude is imaginative and naive, as the speaker is in his childhood and his innocence. In the second stanza, the attitude is dark and foreboding, as the speaker is in his early adulthood. In the third stanza, the attitude is bitter and disappointed, as the speaker is upset with how his life turned out and isn't happy with how reading ruined his life.
When someone reads the poem for the first time, the rhyme scheme is not as transparent at first glance, and it looks as though the rhyme scheme in each stanza is different. After a closer analysis, however, the reader can find that the rhyme scheme pattern is A, B, C, B, A, C, and we found that this represents the speaker's view about reading. See, at first, the speaker loves reading, but it is just reading at the surface. However, after time, the speaker reads into the deeper meaning of books and realizes that they are all the same, just as each stanza has the same rhyme scheme. This also relates to his dysfunctional life, because although the rhyme scheme is odd and abnormal, there is still a pattern and consistency, just like how he feels that his life is the same every single day, even though it's a mess.
In the poem, there is an extended metaphor that relates reading as a metaphor for life. As the speaker keeps reading, he comes to the conclusion that all books are the same, and there's nothing special about them. This relates to as life goes on, one comes to the conclusion that there is nothing special or unique about his or her life in the end, and is just full of disappointment, just as the books are to the speaker.
The overall theme of the poem is the speaker's coming of age and the realization of disillusionment of life. The speaker adopts an escapist view of books, that they offer us a way to live while we waste away our own lives.